Welcome to the Tell Us Ellis podcast.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Excited to bring another baseball preview to you today. Two more teams in our ongoing pursuit of covering every Major League Baseball team before the season begins. Today, two very good teams that will be very competitive in 2026, I have no doubt, and that is the dreaded New York Yankees and the Detroit Tigers. Actually, I'll start with Detroit, and then we'll go to New York. Again, two very interesting teams. Detroit, not only do they have an interesting team currently, but they have a really good farm system that we're going to talk about in more detail. And then the Yankees are just the Yankees, the dreaded Yankees, the bane of my existence in baseball since I was very, very little. So anyway, we will get into it. First, just a reminder, if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube, wherever you're watching this podcast or listening to it. Make sure you subscribe. If you like the show, give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that as well. It takes a lot of time and effort to dig into all these teams, to go through that process. I love doing it because I love baseball, but really get the gratification when I see that there's thumbs ups or new subscribers to my podcast. So would appreciate that. If you get a chance, also follow me on social media on X and on Instagram. It's at TellUsEllisHQ. And then if you have a question for the show, or you want to debate me on something, or want to join the show, just email me, jamie@tellusellis.com. I have a mailbag that is very, very long since the beginning of this show, and I do have to spend an episode going through it. Some of it might not be as relevant because it goes back to the early days of when I was putting these podcasts together, but we'll pull out some of them. Some of them are just downright funny, etc. I've got my podcasting partner, Gracie, here with me, who is eating a bone right now, just back from a camping trip. This is Gracie and Bailey, while we were in Turks and Caicos for a couple of days, for a week, actually. We are back. They are back in the house. And again, excited to get into this with you. Again, the Detroit Tigers and the New York Yankees. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started with the Detroit Tigers. Last year was such an interesting year for this team. If you look at it, on July 8th, they had a 14-game lead over the second-place team. They were 59-34, one of the best teams in baseball, if not the best team in baseball. And after that high water mark of 59-34, the rest of the season, they only went 28-41. And it gets worse, okay? It gets worse. They had a 9.5-game lead on September 10th. So again, at one point, they had a 14-game lead. They didn't play as well, but still, as of September 10th, they had a 9.5-game lead. They ended up finishing 3-13 to close out the year. At the same time, Cleveland went 14-3 and ended up winning the division. It has to be one of the great collapses in baseball history. Now, with the wild card, Detroit still made the playoffs. And not only did they make the playoffs, they beat Cleveland in the wild card round 2-1. So Cleveland, that spent all that time coming back and surpassing the Tigers at the very end of the season, ends up losing to the Tigers in a wild card series 2-1. Detroit then went on to play Seattle in the American League Division Series, a really, really great series. Seattle ended up winning it 3-2, and Detroit was ousted from the playoffs. Now, this is a team that has come on as of late. If you go back to 2021, they were 77-85, finished in third place, 16 games back. The next year, they dropped to 66 wins, 66-96, fourth place, 26 games back. They improved by 12 games in 2023, getting up to 78-84. That was good enough for second place, just 9 games back. And then 2024, they win 86 games, go 86-76. That was good enough for third place. They finished 6.5 games out, but they did make the playoffs. They won the American League wild card 2-0 over Houston, and then lost the American League Division Series 3-2 to Cleveland. And then again, I mentioned 2025, They ended up just winning one more game. They go 87-75. Nobody would have seen that coming after they started out so strong. They finished one game back of the Guardians to lose the division, and again, made the playoffs, win the wild card, losing the ALDS. So let's talk about A.J. Hinch, their manager. Hinch has been in place since 2021, really has been there since this team has been turning around. He's experienced, strategic, strong tactical instincts. He managed the Astros from 2015 to 2019, including a World Series in 2017. He was suspended. He was tied to the Astros sign stealing issue that came up. He was suspended for 1 year, but has always been seen as one of the great managers in baseball. So again, he's been with Detroit since 2021. Hinch gets really involved, not just in managing, but from a free agency standpoint. Framber Valdez, when they were recruiting Framber in the offseason, Hinch called him directly. He definitely has the trust of the organization. When I'm talking about the organization, let me talk about front office. So Scott Harris is the president of baseball operations since the end of the 2022 season. The former executive, he is a former executive with the Cubs and Giants. He's very analytical, disciplined, process-driven. He's kind of more of a build it the right way versus, spending without thought. He's not this big splashy spender. Boy, that's a lot to say. Splashy spender. This is a team that doesn't have a GM. They have a series of assistant GMs, vice presidents of player personnel and development and analytics. But Scott Harris is the guy that kind of runs the show from a development standpoint, from a free agency standpoint, from a drafting standpoint. He acts as the GM in that president of baseball operations capacity. From an ownership standpoint, Christopher Ilitch took control in 2017 when his father, Mike, passed away. Chris also oversees the Detroit Red Wings and Ilitch Holdings. He's less publicly aggressive than his father, who spent sometimes to chase championships. He's perceived a little bit as too conservative, but more recently, he's viewed as willing to spend when that competitive window opens, which it's open right now. And you definitely could see that this offseason when they made signings of a Framber Valdez and of a Kenley Jansen and Justin Verlander. So good to see that happening for this team. From a fan support standpoint, I'll go back to 2021. Again, COVID restrictions in place. They just drew 1.1 million fans. The next year, when gates were open, they only drew 1.57 million fans. 2023, they improved by 12 games. They drew 1.6 million fans. 2024, that was a playoff year. They win 86 games. They drew 1.86 million fans. And then last year, this 87-win team that started out 59-34, they drew 2.4 million fans. So the fans are going to come out when this team wins. There's no doubt about that. They play at Comerica Park. Comerica, from a run standpoint, is dead even on average with Major League Baseball. How that plays throughout the months of the year, it's actually down a little bit, down 2% in runs in April, down 3% in May. June, it's up 2%. July, it's up 5%. Then August, it's down 1%. September, it's down 1%. So you get that heat of the summer season. The ball tends to travel a little bit better. So I talked a little bit about this team willing to spend money this offseason. Let's take a look at who they lost first. And it really was on the pitching side. Two pitchers that they lost that actually didn't pitch in 25. One was Alex Cobb, that I thought was a really good signing, that veteran presence for a younger team. But he ended up not pitching in 25. He is still a free agent. Jason Foley did not pitch in 25 due to injury. And his contract was not renewed. He actually signed with the Giants. Jose Urquidy was with this team in 2025, but only appeared in 2 games. He had right elbow surgery in 24, so really didn't help this team last year at all. Some of the players that did help them but are no longer with this team, Tommy Canale is a relief pitcher who is still a free agent. He was 1-5 with a 5.43 ERA for this team. Chase Lee went to the Blue Jays as part of a trade. Chase Lee was 4-1 with a 4.10 ERA, appeared in 32 games, 37 and a third innings, 36 strikeouts, and a 1.1 whip. Chris Paddock was a starting pitcher for this team who ended up signing with the Marlins in the offseason. Paddock 5-12 with a 5.35 ERA, started 28 games for this team, 158 innings. He struck out 112 batters and pitched to a 128 whip. Paul Sewald is a relief pitcher who signed with the Diamondbacks. He's been a really good relief pitcher over the years. 1-1 with a 4.58 ERA. In 22 games last year, he pitched 19 and 2/3 innings, struck out 20 batters, and had a whip of 1.22. That was actually between Detroit and Cleveland. And then Rafael Montero is a relief pitcher signed by the Yankees. Montero 1-2 with a 4.48 ERA. 59 games, 16 1/3 innings, struck out 58 batters, pitched to a 131 whip. So that's the players that they lost since last offseason. And when you look at it, you have to say they didn't lose a lot from this roster that they had last year, but they did make some really good adds. So Framber Valdez, well, let me start before I get into Framber. Let me start with some re-signings. Gleyber Torres signed a qualifying offer to come back and play second base. Torres last year for the Tigers, 256, 16 home runs, 74 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, and a 745 OPS. So, very nice numbers for Gleyber Torres. And then Kyle Finnegan is a relief pitcher who came over from Washington last year. He re-signed with Detroit. Really nice signing, 4-4 with a 3.47 ERA, 56 games. He did save 24 of them, pitched to a 3.47 ERA, 57 innings, 55 strikeouts, and a 1.11 whip. Now, the good news is Finnegan is not going to be asked to close games this year, so he's going to be able to slot in a better bullpen position because the Tigers signed Kenley Jansen in the offseason. Jansen last year, 5-4 with a 2.59 ERA, 62 games. Let's see, he had 29 saves, 59 innings. He strikes out 57 batters and pitched to a 1.11 whip. So, not getting a lot of the strikeouts he used to back years ago, but still really solid numbers across the board. Again, that'll allow Finnegan to slide back probably into more of a setup role. Now, let me talk about Framber Valdez, because he was a big signing late in the offseason. 13-11, 3.66 ERA, 31 games started, 192 innings, 187 strikeouts, and a 124 whip. Really nice signing. They also bring back Justin Verlander to probably close out his career. Verlander last year with the Giants was 4-11 with a 3.85 ERA. 29 games started, 152 innings pitched, 137 strikeouts, and a 136 whip. So some really good signings there. Now, they also signed Austin Slater, an outfielder, 216, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, 1 stolen base, and only a 642 OPS, but good bench depth. And then Drew Anderson was signed. He was a starting pitcher out of Korea, returns to the big leagues. Last year in Korea, he was 12-7 with a 2.25 ERA, 30 games started, 171 and 2/3 innings. He struck out 245 batters and pitched to a whip of 1.002. So, look, I really like what this team added in the offseason. Again, it was a team that was on pace to be perhaps the best team in baseball until they hit this brick wall. Now they bring in some good starting pitching, some bench help, some bullpen help. So I like what this team added. Let's take a look at the lineup. This is a team that averaged kind of middle of the pack in hitting. They were 16th in average, 14th in on-base percentage, and 12th in OPS. Let's look through this. I think, and we're going to talk about this guy because he is going to be so important to this Tigers team this year. And that's Kevin McGonigal. Kevin McGonigal is one of the, if not the best prospect in baseball. Might be number 2, but 1, 2, 3. He is absolutely one of the best prospects in baseball, and I think he has a really good opportunity to break camp with his team and play every day at shortstop. I'm going to get into him a little bit further when we talk about prospects, so I won't get into it a whole lot, but if he can play shortstop for this season, that is going to be a big lift for this team. McGonigal, just 21 years old. He'll be 21 at opening day. Again, was a first-round pick, 37th overall back in 2023 for this Tigers team. I mentioned Gleyber Torres. He will play second base almost every day. 256, 16 home runs. Really good piece at second base. Kerry Carpenter will likely play right field most of the time. He could platoon a little bit, but when you look at his numbers, 252, 26 home runs, only got on base at a 291 clip, but Carpenter could play right field, I'll say every day. Now, he could be spelled a little bit. Jamal Jones is an outfielder. He's a right-handed stick who is likely to come off the bench. Jones is a 287 hitter, only 150 plate appearances last year, but 287 hitter, 7 home runs. He does get on base at a 387 clip, 2 stolen bases, so he could play the outfield. Matt Vierling could also play the outfield, another right-handed bat off the bench, 239 last year and 100 plate appearances, just 1 home run, 2 stolen bases. So that's what the right field and some of the outfield utility pieces could be for this team. Riley Green had a breakout year last year, left fielder. Green just 25 years old still, 258 last year, 36 home runs. He only got on base at a 313 clip, but again, he's still young, 25 years old. He'll be 25 on opening day. He'll be 25 for most of the season. And, had, like I said, a breakout year last year, OPS above 800. So see if he can keep it going. Spencer Torkelson had a breakout year. Torkelson was number 1 pick overall back in 2020, really struggled in his career and then broke out last year, batted 240. So his average is not good. He only, he gets on base at a 333 clip, which isn't terrible. 31 home runs though. And again, 90, just below an 800 OPS. So you like what Torkelson brings at first base. And again, he'll get a chance to play every day. Center field, I'll say Wenceel Perez will likely play center field most of the time. Perez, 26 years old. He was an amateur free agent out of the Dominican back in 2016. Last year, batted 244, 13 home runs, 8 stolen bases. That was in 383 plate appearances. Again, he's a switch hitter, but he could be spelled again by a Jahmai Jones or a Matt Vierling from time to time. Third base probably belongs to Colton Keith, left-handed stick, 256 last year, 13 home runs, a 333 on base percentage. Colton Keith, just 24 years old. So a 5th round pick of Detroit back in 2020. Dylan Dingler will catch most of the time, 278 with 13 home runs last year, 469 plate appearances. Jake Rogers is likely to back him up behind the plate. Rogers just batted 187 with 3 home runs, so they could look for an upgrade there. And then from a DH standpoint, Zach McKinstry is likely to be the regular DH. McKinstry, 259 hitter, 12 home runs, 19 stolen bases. He gets on base at a 333 clip. He will likely DH. Now, you do have Javier Baez also on the bench, can play certainly the infield, second base, outfield, 257 last year, 12 home runs, 5 stolen bases. That was in 437 plate appearances. So an improving offense, a lot of these guys return, but again, if McGonigal's in there and he hits to his capabilities, look out. This could be a very dangerous Detroit team. When you look at their starting pitching, they're top 3rd in the league, at least last year they were, ERA 11th, WHIP 10th, and they added to an already really good rotation. So, look, top of the rotation, number 1 starter, no doubt about it. Tarek Skubal, 29 years old now. He is in his walk year, is Skubal, which is incredible. In arbitration this year, he was awarded $32 million in arbitration. I believe that was a record in salary arbitration. The Tigers have elected not to extend him. I think he's going to walk after this season. He will be a coveted free agent if he does walk. So Skubal last year, 2.21 ERA, 195 in the third innings, just 141 hits, 241 strikeouts. He may be the best pitcher in baseball. If he's not, Paul Skeens might be the best pitcher in baseball. They're 1-2, no doubt about it. Great numbers for Skubal. Now, you have to really like what they did by adding Framber Valdez. Now Valdez slots into that number 2 slot in the rotation. 3.66 ERA last year, 192 innings, just 171 hits, 187 strikeouts. 31 games started last year. Really solid 1-2, no doubt about it. Jack Flaherty, depends on which Jack Flaherty you're going to get. Last year, Flaherty, 4.64 ERA, 161 innings, only gave up 147 hits and struck out 188 batters. So, the numbers behind the numbers look pretty good. I think Flaherty in that number 3 slot works out really well. From a number 4 starter standpoint, you've got Justin Verlander now. Verlander did make 29 starts last year, 152 innings, 155 hits, and 137 strikeouts. 3.85 ERA, might have started showing his age a little bit. He is 43 years old, by the way. But if he can give him a repeat performance like that in 2026, look out. This Tigers 1-4 will be one of the, if not the best in the American League. And then, by the way, you have Casey Mize as your 5th starter. Mize, what did he do last year? Went out through 28, started 28 games, 149 innings, 153 hits, 139 strikeouts, pitched to a 3.87 ERA. Mize kind of found himself. He was the number 1 overall pick back in 2018, but definitely his breakout season last year. So I think there's a lot of upside there for this Tigers starting staff. Really like what they have from a starting standpoint. Let's talk about their bullpen. Their bullpen finished 17th in ERA and 16th in WHIP, so kind of middle of the road. But now you feature Kenley Jansen as your closer. Jansen, again, saved 29 games last year, pitched to a 2.59 ERA. This was with the Angels. 59 innings, just 37 hits and 57 strikeouts. So he closes for you. That allows a guy like Will Vest to come in and be a setup guy. Vest, 68 2/3 innings, just 61 hits and 75 strikeouts last year. He pitched to a 3.01 ERA. And then Kyle Finnegan, as I said, goes back and slates into a setup role now, not a closer role. His 3.47 ERA will move into that setup role. 57 innings, 45 hits, and 55 strikeouts. So you have to really like that from a back end of the bullpen standpoint. What about middle relief? Middle relief, you've got Tyler Holton. Holton pitched to a 3.66 ERA last year, 78 2/3 innings, 65 hits, and 64 strikeouts. Pretty strong there. I mentioned Drew Anderson coming over from Korea. If he can do 80% of what he did in Korea and do it in a middle or even long relief role, I think they'd be really happy with that. Brennan Hanafy will also be in middle relief. Hanafy, 3.00 ERA last year, 60 innings, 65 hits, and 40 strikeouts. And then Brant Herter will also be in middle relief. Herter had a really nice year, 2.43 ERA last year, 63 innings, 57 hits, and 68 strikeouts. And then long relief, if it's not Drew Anderson, if he's in middle relief, you could use a Sean Gunther. He's a non-roster invitee right now. Gunther was picked up off of waivers from Miami back in 2022. Non-roster invitee again, only pitched 10 1/3 innings last year, 5.23 ERA. So, the back end of that bullpen is really good. If you look at the middle and long relief, maybe not quite as good. But again, when you have a starting staff like that, maybe you can have not the top bullpen in baseball, but a middle of the road bullpen. You just don't want them to blow games for this Detroit team. Detroit also has some injured players right now. Jackson Jobe had Tommy John surgery back in June. Highly unlikely to impact this year. It's a shame. Jobe was the number 3 overall pick back in 2021. Again, probably will not impact this season. Troy Melton is a starting pitcher who strained his elbow back in February. He's on the mend. We'll see where that takes him. Melton would be a really good arm, whether it's in a starting pitcher role, long relief standpoint. So that could be really, really good for this team. Reese Olson, unfortunately, shoulder surgery back in February, likely to miss the season. So yeah, that's kind of the overall makeup of this roster, and it is a really good roster, maybe one of the best in the American League. So let's take a look at their farm system, and I really want to focus on a couple of these players here that I've already talked about. So Detroit overall, 4th best farm system in baseball according to Baseball America. They had ranked back in 2021, they were the 28th best farm system. 2022, they were 25th. 2023, they were 13th. They were number 2 in 2024. Graduated some players. They go to 9th in 2025, now back up to 4 in 2026. As I said, this farm system starts with Kevin McGonigal. He's the Tigers' number 1 prospect. He is rated by Baseball America number 2 overall. Look, this guy is just fantastic. McGonigal hit nearly 500 in high school, and he was even more impressive in summer showcases and with Team USA. The Tigers drafted him with a supplemental first-round pick back in 2023 after they had already selected Max Clark, who is another guy we're going to talk about here in a second. McGonigal has hit over 300 in each of his first 3 pro seasons. He showed improved power in 2025. He propelled High A West Michigan and then Double A Erie both to the playoff appearances. He finished his season in 2025 earning MVP honors in the Arizona Fall League, where he also started to learn how to play third base a little bit. Look, he'll play much of 2026 as a 21-year-old. So if he does make the Tigers opening day roster, he will be 21 most of the season. He hits top-tier fastballs as well as anyone. He can handle spin really well. He has no holes in his swing. He's got this kind of rare ability to be aggressive on pitches in the strike zone, but he doesn't swing at bad pitches. He had a higher OPS against lefties, which is incredible as a left-handed hitter. He has a short but powerful frame and can be an advantage to him. He's excellent bat control. He's got a quick trigger with plus power when he gets a pitch to pull, especially. He had 52 extra base hits with 48 strikeouts in 2025. So think about that. 46 strikeouts, 52 extra base hits. That's remarkable. He's stretched at shortstop a little bit. He could play there, but he projects kind of as fringy at shortstop because of his limited range and arm strength. That arm strength isn't bad, but on plays where he has to go to his right, it stretches him a bit. He's above average at second base and could even end up being a plus defender there, but he has worked on playing third base. Again, his arm could be a limiting factor there, but they've tried him out at third base. Gleyber Torres right now is going to, he's back with Detroit on a 1-year qualifying offer, so it's unlikely McGonigal is going to open the season at second base for the Tigers, but could he come out and play shortstop or third base? I think it's likely that he will. Look, this guy is a future all-star. He has MVP potential. If he plays out of the gates, opening day for this team, he could be a Rookie of the Year candidate. He could slot in at the front end of that lineup. I mean, look, his scouting grades, he's got an 80 hit tool, 60 power tool, 55 run tool, 55 field tool. We talked about his arm being kind of more limited, 45 arm tool. This is one of the best prospects in baseball. I don't have to go far then to talk about the second best prospect in this organization and the 6th best prospect in baseball, and that is Max Clark. So he was picked ahead of McGonigal. Clark was actually picked 3rd overall. He was picked ahead of Wyatt Langford and Walker Jenkins. So Tigers thought really highly of him, and you can understand why. He uses the whole field with his bat. He's got a slashing swing that leads to plenty of hard line drives, especially to left field and to center field. He doesn't swing and miss a whole lot. He seldom chases pitches. He doesn't handle velocity as well as McGonigal, but again, that's not saying much. McGonigal handles velocity extremely well. When hitting lefties, his power somewhat disappears against them. He also has these ground ball tendencies where it limits his power because he hits a lot of scorchers into the ground. His exit velocities are among the best in the whole organization, but again, when he's grounding the ball and hitting these scorchers, that doesn't do well for him. He wants to elevate the ball, and that's something the Tigers have been working on with him. He was slowed by shin splints in 2025, so he's got to work on his conditioning a little bit, but he does have 65 grade run times, so, that points to a lot of speed. From a defensive standpoint, he plays center field really aggressively. He doesn't read the ball very well off the bat, but he makes up for that with his speed. So again, something you can improve upon are his reads off the bat. He is a hard worker. He's in the batting cage every day. He's worked as hard as anyone out there. Look, he's going to likely hit this Tigers roster sometime in 2026. I don't think it's going to be out of the gates, but overall, from a scouting grade standpoint, his hit tools is 60, his power is a 50, his runs is 65, his fielding's is 60, his arms is 60. No wonder why he is the 6th best prospect overall in baseball. The Tigers' number 3 prospect comes in at number 29 overall in baseball, again, all according to Baseball America, and that's Bryce Renier, shortstop. Renier, it was really a debate in the 2024 draft who was the better shortstop, Renier or Connor Griffin. They both came out of high school at the same time. Griffin was drafted 9th overall, 2 picks ahead of Renier. So, Renier, the best shortstop on the board, the Tigers took him. He was having an impressive pro debut at Low A Lakeland, but then dislocated his right shoulder, sliding back into first base on a pickoff attempt. So really disappointing. Renier was a 2-way player in high school, and he's got plus power and an unbelievable arm that made him a promising position player. So he gave up his pitching and moved into that shortstop role. 90th percentile exit velocity of 108 miles per hour. Is the best among Tigers minor league players and ranked the best for any teenager in pro ball. So, we talked about Max Clark having these really good exit velocities, but Renier actually beat out Clark's exit velocities. His swing is best when he's driving the ball to the opposite field or to center field. He needs to develop a little more pull power. He shows a solid awareness at the plate. He can read pitches pretty well. As a shortstop, Renier wasn't quite as rangy as the Tigers had hoped he would be, but his arm does stand out. His range is solid, but again, not spectacular. He's got that plus arm that creates the ability to make plays that other shortstops can't. So even if he doesn't have the range, his arm can make up for it. He's a well-rounded shortstop prospect, and he's 20 years old. He still has time to develop, but Renier is likely to play shortstop for this team in the future. Maybe it's later in 26, maybe it's in 27. But now when you look at a guy like Max Clark, who could play center field, McGonigal, who's going to be a future second baseman, Renier, who's going to be a future shortstop, this Tigers team, as good as they are right now, you have to like what they have in their minor league system. I'm going to finish the minor leagues and their prospects by talking about one more top 100 prospect, and that's Josu Briceno. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. It's Josue Briceno or Briceno. It's Briceno. Look, he's a first base prospect, 4th in the Tigers system, 76 overall. 2022 international class, he was drafted, and he absolutely starred in the Florida Complex League in 2023. He won the first ever Arizona Fall League Triple Crown in 2024. He hit 20 home runs in 2025. And that was for Double-A Erie. So, he's playing in the upper levels of minor league baseball. He's a smart and savvy slugger with huge power. He's got a lengthy swing and average bat speed and generates a lot of power through leverage, strength, and a really good trunk rotation. He can get beaten on really quality velocity at times, but he punishes breaking balls and off-speed pitches. He's got excellent pitch recognition and strike zone awareness. He comfortably gets the ball into the air to his pull side, thus he's maximizing his power. He's a well below average catcher, so I said he's first base. He's actually was drafted as a catcher, or not drafted, he was signed as an international free agent as a catcher, but he's well below average at catcher. He's an adequate pitch framer who can bring pitches back into the zone, but with some of the technology nowadays they're using, it's questionable whether that's a skill that's really even needed. Again, first base is more likely his long-term position. He's a big target, does have limited range and hard hands at first base, but I think that that's where he'll end up. He's a slow twitch slugger with real defensive questions, as I said. He could be a middle of the order lineup force with huge power, but if his bat is just a grade less than expected, he could kind of being an up and down AAA slugger, kind of one of those quad A type players. The Tigers don't think so. The Tigers think he's going to be an everyday first baseman for this team. If he can develop into that, you now have an infield of the future that's Braceno at first base, Rainier at shortstop, McGonigal at second base. You've got at third base, Colt Keith, who's only 24 years old. Boy, what an infield for this team. And, they continue to bring it too. They signed the 21st best international prospect in January. That's Randy Santana. He's a 17-year-old out of the Dominican Republic. They signed him for $1.1 million. He's 6'3", 184 pounds as a 17-year-old. So that's really good to see as well. So what happens if this team doesn't do as expected? What do they do? What if they fall out of pennant contention? What if something just crumbles, which I absolutely don't expect it to happen? But if it did, boy, they have some really good trade chips. You've got Gleyber Torres, owed $22 million in 26. Again, he accepted that qualifying offer. He's a free agent in 27. He could even be a trade asset if McGonigal comes in and can play every day at shortstop, and they wanted to move him to second base. They could make a trade of Torres even if they're in the playoff race. You've got Kenley Jansen, who's paid $9 million in 26. There's a $12 million club option next year for him, so he could be a trade asset. I don't know if they'd trade Justin Verlander, $13 million in 26, a free agent in 27. I think Verlander would like to finish his career in Detroit. Jack Flaherty's another arm, $10 million in 26, a free agent in 27. Drew Anderson coming over from Korea. He's paid $7 million this year. There's a $10 million club option next year, so pretty good trade asset. Casey Mize after this year is going to be a free agent. He's owed $6.15 million this year, a free agent in 27. And then the absolute biggest trade asset this team has, maybe the best trade asset in baseball, Tarek Skubal, $32 million this year. He's a free agent in 27. Again, he's not going anywhere if this team is in the race, which I expect them to be. But if they do fall out of the race, boy, Skubal is going to be a really, really good trade asset. So where do I see this team? It's one of the better teams in baseball. Could be a level 2 team, somewhere between 2 and 3, but has all the makings of being a really legitimate pennant contender in the American League in 2026. All right. I don't even want to do this team, but I have to because I'm previewing every team in baseball, and I'm just going to have to do it. The New York Yankees. It makes me sick. Honestly, I've learned to respect the Yankees over the years because I think they are really doing things the right way. They're not just going out and signing big name free agents. In fact, some would say that Hal Steinbrenner, who took over day-to-day control of the Yankees in 2008, that he's more measured and financially disciplined than George Steinbrenner ever was. He'll spend, but with luxury tax awareness. And he's seen as more stable than George Steinbrenner, but less emotionally driven by championships at all costs. So what does that mean? It means they're trying to build their farm system and then add players along the way. They are not afraid to spend, don't get me wrong. But when you go over the changes they made in the offseason, yeah, they made some changes, but they didn't just go out and pay. So I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I'm just trying to tell you why I respect the Yankees a little bit more today than I did when they were going out and throwing money at Jason Giambi and so forth. This is a team that's had a history of winning, a very, very long history of winning, like the Dodgers. They win. If you go back to 2021, they were 92-70. They finished in second place, 8 games back. They lost the American League Wild Card Series 1-0 to Boston. That's when it was a 1-game series. 2022, they were 99-63. They won the division. They won the American League Division Series 3-2 over Cleveland, but then they lost the American League Championship Series 4-0 to Houston. 2023, they win 82 games. They only go 82-80. They finish in 4th place, 19 games back, and miss the playoffs. 2024, they improve by 12 games and go 94-68, win the division again, win the American League Division Series 3-1 over Kansas City, win the ALCS 4-1 over Cleveland, and then lose the World Series 4-1 to the Dodgers. 2025, last year, then they also win 94 games. They go 94-68, finish in 2nd place, win the American League Wild Card 2-1 over Boston, but then lose the American League Division Series 3-1 to Toronto. This is a team that always is going to draw well. So 2021, a COVID reduced attendance year. They drew 1.96 million fans, almost 2 million fans. 2022, they draw 3.1 million fans, 23, 3.3 million, 24, 3.3 million. Last year, they draw close to 3.4 million fans. They are always going to be followed, no doubt about it. Aaron Boone's been there since 2018 as manager. Obviously, former Major League Baseball infielder, had that huge walk-off home run in the 2023 American League Championship Series that sent the Yankees to the World Series. They are consistent contenders. Boone had some heat on him in that 2023 season when they win 82 games, but he is a competitor and has been a really good manager for this team. He connects to Yankee culture. He's long tenured, and that is unusual in this kind of high pressure market of New York. He hasn't won World Series yet. And again, that's going to come back to him. But as long as they remain competitive, he's hands-on tactically. He's not this big analytics manager. He's more of a facilitator, but seems to fit that role really well in New York. We talked about Hal Steinbrenner. Let's talk about Brian Cashman. Cashman has been there since 1998, one of the true great executives in baseball. He oversees all baseball operations and reports directly to Hal Steinbrenner. Highly respected league-wide. He's the architect of multiple World Series championships. Yes, he is criticized because they have not won a World Series since 2009. Poor Yankees. My Orioles haven't won since 1983, so give me a break. Some of the criticism is that he's been unusually conservative at the trade deadline and that he has an over-reliance on analytics, which kind of surprises me when I read that feedback because I don't see him as being a huge analytics guy, but maybe I'm just wrong. Cashman has several assistant GMs and senior vice presidents of baseball operations underneath him, but he is the guy. Obviously, the Yankees play at Yankee Stadium. It plays to league average runs. April, definitely, 7% below average. May, 1% below average. June's kind of flat. July's down about 1%. But then August and September runs are up 4% on average. So let's talk about what this team did in the offseason. Let's first talk about what they lost. They lost, Devin Williams, which I'll say is a big loss. He did not fill the closer role that they hoped he would last year. He did save 18 games, was 4-6 with a 4.79 ERA, but did not feel he was the right fit, and he ended up moving on. They also lost a couple of other pitchers. Actually, most of their losses were on the pitching side. Jake Cousins is still a free agent, but he was 5-2 with a 2.78 ERA for the Yankees. Pitched in 88 games, 90 and 2/3 innings, 125 strikeouts, and a 125 whip. And again, he is still a free agent. They lose Luke Weaver, 4-4 with a 3.62 ERA, 64 and 2/3 innings. He struck out 72 batters. They lose Mark Leiter Jr. to the Athletics, 6-7, a 4.84 ERA, 59 games, 48 and a third innings, 54 strikeouts. He's a guy that just never seemed to be able to fit in New York. And I expect him to do really good things with the Athletics, but struggled in New York. Ian Hamilton signs with the Braves. Hamilton was 2-1 with a 4.28 ERA, 36 games, 40 innings pitched, 42 strikeouts. Jonathan Loaiza signs with the Diamondbacks, 0-1 with a 4.25 ERA last year. And then the only bat they lost was Austin Slater, a backup outfielder who was with them for part of the season. Slater batted .216, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, 1 stolen base, and a 642 OPS. So what did they do in the offseason? Well, they re-signed a lot of players, the biggest being Cody Bellinger. They needed to re-sign him. He last year batted .272, 29 home runs, 98 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, and an 814 OPS. So that was a big signing. Trent Grisham signed a qualifying offer with the Yankees, which was big. Grisham had a breakout year last year, was always seen as a big prospect in San Diego, but really broke out last year with the power. Only batted .235, but 34 home runs, 74 RBIs, and an 812 OPS. So you really like that. They re-signed Ryan Yarbrough. Yarbrough, 3-1 with a 4.36 ERA, 19 games, 8 games started, 64 innings, and 55 strikeouts. They re-signed Paul Goldschmidt, 274, 10 home runs, 45 RBIs, and a 731 OPS. They re-signed Ahmed Rosario, 276, 6 home runs, and 23 RBIs. They re-signed Paul Blackburn, 0-3 with a 6.23 ERA. They signed a couple players to minor league deals. I think a couple of these guys will stick. Paul DeJong, a third baseman, last year batted .228, 6 home runs, and 23 RBIs. They signed Randall Grichuk to a minor league deal, .228, 9 home runs, 27 RBIs, a 674 OPS. They signed Rafael Montero to a minor league deal. They also, in a trade with the Rockies, brought over Angel Shavili. He was very poor last year, 1-5 with a 7.06 ERA in 43 games. That was 58 and 2/3 innings. He struck out 43 batters, but pitched to a 169 whip. The Yankees see something in him. And then they also brought over a player that I think could be really important to them this year. In a trade with the Marlins, they brought over Ryan Weathers. Weathers was 2-2 with a 3.99 ERA with the Marlins, but he was a former prospect, and he's going to get a chance to pitch in this Yankees rotation, and I think he's going to be a really important piece. So when you look at it, there is not a lot of change in this team. If anything, there's some bullpen turnover, and maybe the bullpen took a little bit of a step back, but really not a lot of changes for this team year over year. So did they have to make changes? Again, this is a team that won 94 games last year. Let's look at their offense. It finished 10th in average, 3rd in on-base percentage, and 1st in OPS. I mentioned Trent Grisham. Grisham, 235, gets on base at a 348 clip, 34 home runs. And he's going to play center field most days. The absolute MVP, and is it fair to say future Hall of Famer at this point? I think it is. Aaron Judge, right fielder, batted .331, gets on base at a 457 clip, slugging percentage of .688. This guy mashed 53 home runs, stole 12 bases. Aaron Judge, as long as he's healthy, he is incredible in right field for this team. Then you have Cody Bellinger in left field. I mentioned Bellinger's numbers: 272, 29 home runs, 13 stolen bases, gets on base 334 with a .480 slugging percentage. So 3 really good bats. Ben Rice, who was a 12th round draft pick of the Yankees in 2021, and he's going to go out there and play first base every day. They believe in this guy. He batted .255 last year, got on base at a .337 clip, 26 home runs. He is behind, or batting behind, Judge in the order, or Judge and Bellinger in the order. So he's protection for Judge. And they have a lot of belief in Ben Rice and had a pretty darn good year last year. Giancarlo Stanton will play DH. Stanton mired by injuries to start the season, but then he had a great year when he came back and played in the second half. Batted .273, 24 home runs, .350 on base percentage, .594 slugging percentage. A lot to like there from Giancarlo Stanton. You've got Jazz Chisholm playing second base every day. Only batted .242, but did get on base 33% of the time, 31 home runs and 31 stolen bases. If he can get on base at a greater clip, they could move him up in the lineup, but Chisholm plays a really good second base. Ryan McMahon plays third base for this team. Only batted .214 last year. Does have power, though. Hit 20 home runs. .312 on base percentage. Not great. Shortstop is up in the air right now. I'm going to say Jose Caballero is going to play, and I expect him to claim that position even when Anthony Volpe gets back from injury. Caballero, .236, gets on base at a .339 clip. Stole 49 bases. Not a lot of power, just 5 home runs. But if Caballero is going to hit and get on base and steal those bases, I think he's going to claim shortstop. Austin Wells then is your catcher, really good catcher, 21 home runs last year, only batted .219, but is a good catcher. From a backup standpoint, J.C. Escara is likely to be the backup catcher, .202 last year, 2 home runs, just 98 plate appearances. I mentioned Goldschmidt. He is likely going to be your backup first baseman, .274, 10 home runs. He's going to DH quite a bit as well, I would expect. Ahmed Rosario is your utility infielder and outfielder, .276 hitter with 6 home runs. And then Randall Grushik, signed as a non-roster invitee. I think he's got a good chance to make this team as an outfield backup. Again, .228 with 9 home runs. So that is your offense for this team. Again, some really good players in there. Judge, Bellinger. Then you've got players like Grisham, Ben Rice, Stanton, Jazz Chisholm. And then you also almost have this last third of the lineup, which is your McMahons, Caballeros, Austin Wells. Again, I mentioned Volpe. Volpe had shoulder surgery. He is going to be coming back, I believe, late April, May timeframe. And it'll be interesting to see what the Yankees do with him, if they're going to put him into that shortstop role or instead let Caballero claim that position. A name that I did not mention here is Jason Dominguez. Jason Dominguez is expected to be at AAA, which is pretty incredible considering how highly touted he was as a young prospect in this organization. But right now, that's where he's slated to be. Oswaldo Cabrera is a utility player, fractured his ankle back in 25, still recovering from that, but he could be a good utility player for this team as well. So let's talk about their starting rotation. And their starting rotation actually finished really well last year, 4th in ERA in the league, 8th in WHIP. And Max Fried is their top of the rotation #1 starter entering opening day. Fried had a really great year, pitched to a .286 ERA, 195 and a third innings, just 164 hits and 189 strikeouts. He's a lefty. He's going to take the ball every 5th day, and you really like, what he represents to the Yankees as that top of the rotation pitcher. Cam Schlittler slates to be the #2 pitcher in this rotation. Schlittler had a great year last year for the Yankees. He's 25 years old, Only pitched in 14 games or started 14 games for this team. 73 innings, just 58 hits and 84 strikeouts. Pitched to a 2.96 ERA. He's going to be an important piece of this rotation, especially until some of their injured arms come back. So Schlittler, if he can repeat what he did last year, they've got a really good 1-2 punch in that rotation. Will Warren slated to be the number 3 pitcher. Warren started 33 games for this team last year. Very dependable. Only a 4.44 ERA, 162 and a third innings, gave up 158 hits, struck out 171 batters. Rather see him in that 4 or 5 slot in the rotation, but right now he's slated to be number 3. Now, I do think Ryan Weathers, who is slated to be their number 4 starter, has some huge upside. And, he pitched only 8 starts last year, 38 and a third innings, 37 hits, 37 strikeouts, and a 3.99 ERA. Again, I think he could be a wild card for this team and could end up being more of a number 2, number 3 starter for this team. And then Luis Gil, who was hurt all of last year after being, a rookie in 2024, only pitched in 11 starts last year, 57 innings, 47 hits, 41 strikeouts, pitched to a 3.32 ERA. Hurt a majority of last year, but should be healthy to start this season. Now, notice I didn't mention 3 important pitchers here. Garrett Cole, who's coming back from Tommy John surgery, looking at a May-June time frame, and they'll ease him back in, but boy, he could be a huge pickup for this team the second half of the year. Carlos Rodon is recovering from elbow surgery to remove bone spurs. He had that surgery in October. He should be ready to pitch, May. I'll call it May. And Rodon's got a great arm. And then Clark Schmidt had Tommy John surgery, internal brace surgery. That was back in July of last year. Probably, if he's going to pitch, it's probably going to be later this year. I don't expect a lot of Clark Schmidt in this rotation. But 3 really good arms, 2 of which are going to be able to join the 5 starters that I already mentioned. And now all of a sudden you have a pretty darn deep rotation. So a lot to like there. Bullpen, the team finished kind of in the back third of the league, 23rd in ERA, 19th in WHIP. How does it set up? Well, David Bednar is slated to close this year. Bednar, a 2.30 ERA last year, 27 saves, 62 and 2/3 innings, 46 hits, and 86 strikeouts. If he can handle New York and put up those numbers, they've got a really good closer. Camilo Doval is one of the setup pitchers in this team. Doval, 3.58 ERA, 65 and a third innings, 51 hits, and 72 strikeouts. Pitched to a 3.58 ERA. He was traded to the Yankees from the Giants last year. Again, slated to be one of the setup guys. The other is Fernando Cruz. Cruz, in 48 innings, gave up 33 hits and struck out 72 batters, pitched to a 3.56 ERA. So 2 really strong setup guys, along with Bednar. So a really good back end of the bullpen. Now, middle relief, you've got Tim Hill. Tim Hill is 36 years old, pitched really well last year, 67 innings, 58 hits, just 37 strikeouts, but pitched to a 3.09 ERA. Jake Bird is a middle reliever, 55 and a third innings last year, 60 hits, 66 strikeouts, only a 5.53 ERA. Paul Blackburn will be in middle relief. Blackburn, 39 innings, 47 hits, 34 strikeouts, not great numbers, 6.23 ERA. And then Ryan Yarborough is going to be in that kind of middle relief, maybe long relief role. 4.36 ERA last year, 64 innings, 58 hits, and 55 strikeouts. It's possible, they have a Rule 5 pick from St. Louis, Cade Winquest. If he sticks, he's likely going to fill a long relief role for this team. But, I feel really good about the back end of the bullpen. Like I said, Bednar, Doval, Cruz, 3 really solid arms. But it does get a little shaky then in middle relief and long relief for this team. So that is the lineup. That is the players that this team is going to put out there, or most of the players they'll put out there to start the season. What does the minor league system look like for the Yankees? So this is a team that in 2021, Baseball America had them the 16th best farm system. 2022, they were 13th. 23, they were 16th. 24, they were 10th. 25, they were 25th, and now they're ranked third. It is a Yankee system that is pretty shallow. So let me talk about a couple of the players in this farm system and see what you guys think. So their top prospect is 46th overall in baseball. That's George Lombard. He is a shortstop, 6'3", 190 pounds. He's 20 years old. He's the son of former big leaguer and current Tigers bench coach by the same last name of Lombard and same first name, George Lombard. I don't know if you remember him. So he was the Yankees' first round pick in 2023. He split his first full season between both Class A, low A ball, and high A ball in 24. 2025 hit really well in the South Atlantic League. 329 with a 495 on base percentage and a 488 slugging percentage. That was over 24 games. He was quickly promoted to Double A for the rest of the season. He struggled more against more advanced competition, but he made it to Double A, and it's likely that's where he'll start this year. He hits for average and power. He plays an average big league shortstop. He could use a bit more polish there. He does have bat-to-ball skills, can get a little passive at times and get himself into counts that pitchers can exploit. He does a good job throughout the season of staying disciplined and doesn't chase the ball too much. He struggles against elevated fastballs. That's probably the biggest thing he needs to work on right now. Lombard hit 169 on heaters in the upper third of the zone, so that talks about some of those sluggers. Actually batted 169, got on base at a 169 percentage as well. 90th percentile exit velocity of 103.2. But, which is good. It's okay. But he rarely pulls the ball in the air, which would allow him to kind of exploit some of that power in the coming years. He's an average shortstop. Some scouts think he'll move to third base where he could maybe be an above average defender. He's got an average arm. He needs to clean up his footwork a little bit. His footwork sometimes causes his throws to sail or go offline. Again, I think he's going to return to Double A to begin the season in 26. He needs to work on becoming a more complete hitter. So he's somebody that everybody's going to watch and see if he can develop a little bit. And can he be a well-rounded player who fits on somewhere on that left side of the infield? Elmer Rodriguez is the Yankees' number 2 prospect. He's number 59 overall in baseball. He's a right-handed pitcher, 22 years old, stands 6'3", weighs 160 pounds. He was drafted out of high school in Puerto Rico in 2021. He was actually drafted by the Red Sox and dealt to the Yankees, which is an unusual trade. But it was after the 24 season as part of the trade that sent Carlos Nevarez to Boston. Breakout 2025 season saw him strike out 176 hitters. That was the second most in the minors. And he immediately kind of vaulted up the ladder of prospects and earned a spot on the 40-man roster for the Yankees. He's a lanky, broad-shouldered prospect. He's got a projectable frame. He has a diverse arsenal. It allows him to keep righties and lefties kind of off balance. He's got a full complement of fastballs that includes a 4-seamer, a 2-seamer, a cutter. He backs them up with a sweeper and a splitter that he likes to use as kind of his changeup pitch. Both his sinker and 4-seamer peaked in the upper 90s, and then the cutter gave him an extra option he can use that he can land it in the zone pretty regularly. He's got a mid-70s downer curve. That was the pitch that was his most missed pitch last year, 45.2%. And his changeup was his most chased pitch, 36.2% strikeout rate there. Splitter, sweeper, and curveball each earned garnered miss rates above 40%. His control's improved. He has a chance to make his big league debut at some point this season after probably mid-season. He could one day be a mid-rotation starter. He's got a chance for a little bit more upside depending on how his body continues to develop and how he continues to develop overall, but made some really nice strides last year, and he ends up being the Yankees' number 2 prospect. Their number 3 prospect, number 61 overall in baseball, is Dax Kilby, shortstop, just 19 years old, 6'2", 190 pounds. He was a first-round pick of the Yankees in 2025. They spent $2.8 million to get him. He hit .353 and finished with more walks than strikeouts in an 18-game pro debut at low A last year. He walked 13 times and just struck out 11 times. He is a contact hitter. He's got keen knowledge of the strike zone. His in-zone miss and chase rates were below 8% each. His overall miss rate was just 15%. He's got a swing that's short, quick, and powerful. His swing decisions were really good. He's got speed that ranks among the best in the system, and he's got a 40-inch vertical leap, so this guy's athletic. He's shortstop. That's where he's playing right now. Might need to move off the position as he moves up the ladder a little bit. He's got a stiffer arm slot and below average arm that might push him to second base or maybe even the outfield someday. He's one of the most, liked prospects and developing quickly prospects to emerge from that 25 draft class. He'll probably split his time between Class A and high Class A ball. Could finish the year as the system's number one prospect. We'll see, but a lot to like from Dax Kilby. The last prospect I'll talk about is Carlos LaGrange. He's the Yankees' fourth best prospect, number 93 overall in the top 100. 22 years old, stands 6'7", 195 pounds. He's a right-hand pitcher. He's got this very high octane fastball. He had a back injury in 2024 that limited him just to 21 innings. And then he came back and pitched in the Arizona Fall League. But he stayed healthy in 2025, and he struck out 168 batters in just 120 innings. That ranked him third overall in the minors behind Jonah Tong and a guy that we just talked about, Elmer Rodriguez. He's got a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, peaks at 102. Among pitchers who threw their four-seamers 400 or more times, just 5 registered at the same velocity as LaGrange. He's got a gyro slider and sweeper and throws the sweeper nearly twice as often as his gyro slider. His changeup is effective. There's an 8-mile-an-hour separation between his fastball and changeup. And, the one thing I'll say about him is with his 6'7" frame, he really needs to be clicking in his mechanics to make sure that he's in the zone regularly. That's something to watch. Is he going to walk too many batters? Because when you're big and lanky like that, think back to Randy Johnson's early years, he would get his mechanics off and couldn't hit the strike zone. So, I think LaGrange will start in Double-A, likely spend a lot of time in 2026 at Triple-A. He'll be developed as a starter. There's some belief that his home's in the bullpen. If he is, he could be a lockdown closer for years to come, but they're going to try him as a starter, see what happens, but an exciting player to watch. Again, 22 years old, somebody that is likely a 2027 watch for a potential 25-man roster spot, but he could hit New York late this year. It's doubtful. He'll likely max out at AAA. This is a team that doesn't have a lot of players that they could move at the trade deadline should something falter for them. I really just highlighted 4. Trent Grisham's one of them. He accepted their qualifying offer, so he's a free agent at the end of this season. Paul Goldschmidt's another. He signed for $4 million, and then he's a free agent next year. Tim Hill signed for $3 million, and then he's a free agent next year. And then Ryan Yarbrough signed this year for $2.5 million, and he, too, is a free agent at the end of this year. So, not a lot of players that the Yankees would likely move should it come to that. And again, I don't expect this team to be out of contention this year. They're going to be in the thick of it for most or all of the season. One thing I should mention from an international signing standpoint, they didn't sign any top 50 guys. They had $5.4 million of bonus money, and they allocated out to a larger number of people. They also lost $1 million when they signed Max Fried, so that brought their bonus pool money down a little bit, but they spread it out, and that's sometimes smart to do when you have a limited amount of money. So where does this team fit then in the top, not top in overall Major League Baseball? I see them as a tier 2 or tier 3 team. They're going to be battling in this division with the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, the Orioles. That could bring their win total down. It is just a tough division, but I do see them as I'll call it a 2 or 3 level team in my pyramid for 2026. So that is your New York Yankees. All right, so that's a wrap. Detroit Tigers, New York Yankees, 2 really fun teams to talk about. Detroit, boy, they've got something really good going. I wish they could sign Tariq Skubal long term. He could just be a mainstay in that rotation. Then you've got these young kids coming up. They could be a tough team for years to come. It doesn't look like they're going to do that with Skubal, though, which is a little disappointing. The Yankees are the Yankees. I've got nothing else to say about them. I really appreciate you listening. Again, if you like this show, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please subscribe. If you like the show, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy the content, please follow me on social media, X and Instagram. I'm at TellusEllisHQ. And then if you want to join the show, have questions, have comments, want to just yell and scream at me, that's fine. Send me an email, jamie@TellusEllis.com. That's it. We'll have 2 more teams coming up for you shortly. Until next time, thanks for joining the show.